PGRA Radio and Pop Culture Minefield presents Dangerous Military Nerds. Dangerous Military Nerds. They're just like regular nerds, only dangerous. And now, your hosts, Don Ecker and Gerry Kissell. Warning. The following program involves discussions between military veterans. As such, it is almost guaranteed that there will be coarse language and crude subject matter. So if the words piss, fuck, cock, cunt, and shit offend you, or if openly discussing that one time you were butt-fucking your ex-girlfriend and her miniature pincher jumped up on the bed and started licking your asshole until you had the best orgasm of your life makes you uncomfortable, this might not be the place for you. Otherwise, enjoy.
Enjoy. I love Mac. Welcome to another episode of Dangerous Military Nerds. We're always going to chuckle about that damn thing. I'm going to have to get him to do a whole new one. Just do a different one every once in a while. But welcome to the show, guys. This is the show where we talk about military stuff. We're veterans. And we've invited a couple of guys.
My turn.
Go ahead, Don.
Yeah. Well, today we've got Dr. John Brandenberg. As soon as he gets back.
With his earbuds.
The epitome of your absent-minded professor. He busted his earbuds. So at the last minute, he decided to run out and buy some new ones. So he's late. But we also have, and thank you, by the way, Chris DePerno. We got Chris joining us again this week. He filled in for me last week. Unfortunately, we had some medical serious emergency in my family. And I was out for not only this show, Dangerous Military Nerds, but also our usual UFO Wednesday show. But Chris is joining us once again. I think Gary is breaking them in so they can kick me the hell out. But
no,
I'm not sure.
I don't want to do the show without you, Don. I hated doing it without you last week, but man, you know, family, man. What's this? Christian Delorme says, speaking of military, did you hear the one-legged vet went? No jokes. I've already told 2 jokes that fell flat with these fuckers. So no more jokes. He was checking his balance. That's a dad joke. Definitely a dad joke. But joining us again, it was with us this morning for UFO Wednesday is our good friend, Chris Delorme. I fucking DePerno. Why did I say Delerno?
Were you smoking before the show, Gary?
I don't know. Was I? I don't know. I'm still buzzing off of that show this morning, dude. I'm serious. That was one of the most fun things we've ever done. I got so excited. I forgot to do our members after show. I forgot it. I completely forgot. I was just like, I was so high on the show. And I don't know about you guys, but there will be a show every once in a while. I'll get so wound up and I'm just like, that was this morning with you guys.
Well, guys, first, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And no, Don, I could never replace you because you are my idol.
Nobody says sons of bitches like Don Ecker.
Them sons of bitches. But I will tell you that Don gave me my first break in radio. The very first radio show I ever did. Was it the
wrist or arm?
Was Don Ecker. And I'll never forget that. That was probably the highlight of my retirement career.
You're too kind, Chris. God.
Yeah, quit sucking up, dude.
Still don't mean we're going to take long walks in the moonlight.
Or cold showers together. Ain't going to happen. But we will get together and say, them sons of bitches.
Sons of bitches.
No, them sons of bitches. Them.
Oh, I love it.
So we're still waiting for Brandenberg to show up. In the meantime, we can just banter about for a few minutes. We can also say hi to the chat. Also, I'd like to say hello to this guy. Hi, Martin. And of course, Chanel's in the background. Hi, Chanel.
Chanel does a great job.
Yes, she does. Both of them. Martin handles.
I'm not calling her Chanel anymore. She's Chantilly Lace.
Chantilly Lace, so full of grace. There we go. Christian Delorme, great intro. Fuck the Karens. Yeah, the funniest look I've ever given to a human being was a woman just going off on me one day, and I just was like this the whole time.
Oh, don't you just love
really
dealing with the
happening?
Karens? Don, did you deal with Karens when you were a police officer? I did. They were the best times.
Very occasionally. But, and according to my wife, all right, because she's been with me for 35 years, and she knows me probably as well as anybody, and she'll tell me, you got to change that look in your face. What's the matter with my face? She said, that look on your face, you just look mean. And I said, well, honey, I only got one face, so there it is. She's been sleeping with it, so I guess it's all right.
When I had Karens that absolutely everything came out of their mouth that was useless, I would just look with them with like a deer in headlights and go, bye. Just like that Tombstone movie. Well, bye.
Well, bye.
And get back in the patrol car and drive away.
Absolutely. When it comes to movie quotes, that's like my favorite movie of all time for great quotes. It's
Tombstone.
like, wow, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave. Oh, I was just fooling. I was playing for blood.
I love that line.
That's just my game.
And speaking of great movie lines, I premiered it today. I want to premiere it once more. This is a great line from Ernie Hudson. Ernie Hudson is a person I've met, great actor.
Answer the goddamn question. When are you coming?
Hopefully within the next 48 hours.
48 hours?
I realize you must have gone through hell.
Gone? Bitch, we still here.
Hey, boss.
What's that from?
Leviathan.
We have to acknowledge this.
That's what that video is for. It is for Christian Delorme, who has been a member for 2 months with the PCM. Boom. Thank you, Christian. Thank you very much, my friend.
And this one for Monkey Jeebus.
Oh, fuck Monkey Jeebus. Oh, no. Thank you, Monkey Jeebus. Come again. Monkey Jeebus, member for 6 months, man. That's 6 months of sobriety. No, it's not. He's high all the time. And let's see. Let me play one for him.
Bingo.
There you go. And the next one I saw somebody gave Christian Delorme $20 super chat. Thank you very much. Hey boys, I'm a Canadian military dad. My boy is getting deployed to Latvia. Isn't it Latvia?
Latvia.
I've never heard of it. On Canada Day, July 1st. He's doing training in the Canadian Arctic, and he was asked to be interpreter for the French officers training in Canada. You mean the faux French? That's a double joke because I use a French word to say fake. For that one, you get this new video.
I'm going to say 2 words to you right now. I want you to listen to them very, very carefully. We find most people can remember them. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, here they are.
Stop it!
Who's this?
Hey, I have John Brandenberg on the phone. John just called me. What's up, John?
So sorry, I don't know what's going wrong. I mean, I clicked the link and everything like that.
It's. I find it funny when a rocket scientist can't use technology.
Of course I can. I'm only a rocket scientist.
That's right. It doesn't take rocket. Oh, but you are.
The thing goes up. Hey, no more questions.
Well, anyway, if you just keep trying, I'll send you a link again. I could probably send it to you through the phone, so we'll do it that way, and I'll send it to you in a minute. Just keep looking for it.
Okay, sure. Are we? Okay, very good, very good. Send me the link.
Will do, John. Thank you. So it doesn't require rocket science, but he is one and still can't do it. That's funny. That's a joke I want to say when he's here.
Oh my
God. How am I going to do that? I got to send it. Oh, I got to open it up on my phone and send it to him through phone chat. So continue, gentlemen.
Oh, well, okay. We wanted to discuss what the military implications may be concerning the reality of the unidentified flying object phenomenon. Now, obviously, they've been around a long time. They have not overtly, in any large manner, shown hostility, but there have been hostile acts that have happened over the years. Matter of fact, back in the early to mid 50s, actually, the fact of the matter is we lost quite a few pilots chasing this phenomena. Chris, what's your take on it?
We have lost pilots. And just lately they found out that pilots are coming back with physical injuries. As a matter of fact, just a few nights ago, I got a chance to talk to Gary Nolan out of Stanford University, and pilots are coming back with physical injuries with their encounters. For instance, they have taken MRIs from pilots and found white spots on their brain after an encounter. Also, and this was very intriguing, one question.
What does the white spot mean?
Well, it means some kind of damage to their neural sensors in their brain. So
there's no activity.
Do they think it may be from an electromagnetic source?
They don't know. I mean, they're guessing that it could be some kind of plasma microwave. They're looking at it similar to the Havana syndrome, because the Havana syndrome uses microwaves, and the microwaves will damage your brain.
With the embassy. That was the embassy.
1952. Yeah. Actually, the Russians developed it and used it against us at a Russian American embassy in Russia, and it literally, I think it killed the ambassador. So the Russians actually first started with this. Well, what they're seeing in these MRIs are similar to Havana syndrome with these white spots, but that's not it. The one question I asked Dr. Nolan, I says, do you see any other physical injuries that the pilots are coming back? He would not say no. He said, I can't answer that question. I won't answer that question. Which, as a detective, I go, okay, there's something there that he's not allowed to talk about.
Yes.
Is that Dr. Brandenberg there?
Yes, John has joined us.
This is me.
Doctor, how are you?
Speaking to you from Mars, the red planet.
Oh, John. I'm glad to see you were on time.
I'm sorry. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm only a rocket scientist.
That was my joke. It's like, it doesn't require being a rocket scientist, but he is one.
And that's actually an impediment to dealing with this new technology stuff. Everything seemed to go wrong.
Well,
but anyway,
the
Nolan interview was extremely important because it says, "Oh, this is not all happy, good news. ET phone home. This is possibly something more serious."
I wanted to bring Dr. Brandenberg on again today for a number of reasons, not the least of which I'm always delighted when John can join us.
Thank you,
John was the administrative assistant to the director of the Clementine Return to the Moon mission in 1996, when we sent up an extraordinarily technologically advanced spy satellite that completely rephotographed the moon, regardless of the fact that, hey, we took pictures from top to bottom back during Apollo, okay? The Apollo mission leading up to and during. Now, why do I find that so intriguing? Well, I'll tell you. Number one, okay, if you were joining us earlier today on the UFO Wednesday show, and I've talked about this guy before, Ingo Swann, the man that designed the protocols for the Stargate program, for the Department of Defense, the CIA, the DIA, the remote viewing program. Now, in 1975, Swann was tasked by an extremely covert intelligence organization, don't even know who it was to this day, to covertly, remotely view the moon. Actually, the rear of the moon, the side that we never see from Earth.
The back door?
The back door.
The back door.
So,
the back
while he
Stargate.
was doing that, he viewed what can only be an extraterrestrial base that's been set up on the rear of the moon, probably a very long time ago. And not only that, but he saw humanoid creatures. But what was even scarier was the fact that they knew he was observing them. And they were not, according to Swann, friendly. They were not friendly. Now, that's been a reoccurring theme in the almost 35 years that I've been involved in this research, that there is at least one group that is not friendly. Now, when I was talking to Dr. Brandenberg about the Clementine mission, a couple of things, not classified, nothing classified, but a couple of things came out. Number one, they took close to or more than 2 million photographs of the moon during that mission. 2 million plus photographs. Now, Chris, Gary, what's the only reason to go back and re-photograph a site during a military operation if you want to see what's happening? Why do you go back and photograph it again after you've already photographed it?
Because you expect changes.
Exactly.
You're doing a recon in a hostile situation.
Yep.
Okay.
Now,
It's all reconnaissance.
I want to just say, you guys, when you say I was deputy manager, there was a Marshal Dillon running the mission. I was Festus. I was not a.
Yeah, Marshal Dillon.
Yes, Mr. Dillon, we'll take care of it. And it was that was my role. I was a tiger team to solve problems, but I was not involved in the management of the mission. I would just be called in whenever there was some problem. And
well,
I was
let me
honored
ask
to
you
be
this,
there.
John. How many of those 2 million photographs were you able to see?
Oh, I saw 3 or 4. I've been told, Brandenberg, if you've got any brains, you'll talk about Mars, not the moon. A little bird told me that. Actually, it was a big bird.
Was it a full bird?
Yeah, right. So
now, in
but everything you
2014
say, it's a science fiction scenario, which I covered in my big UFO novel, The Collapse of the UFO Cover-Up. And so I viewed it as it was an inspiration for a science fiction scenario, doing a photo recon of the moon since Apollo in the novel, and seeing what's changed. Has anything expanded? And in the novel, yes, things had expanded.
Well, in 2014, I was the research producer on a TV special that was on Aliens on the Moon, The Truth revealed. Okay.
Yes.
And I, by special request, requested that Dr. Brandenberg, John Brandenberg, be one of the people we interviewed on that show. And there were a lot of photographs shown that the majority of the American public had never seen before, which show absolutely what can only be artificial objects on the moon.
No comment.
And what happened after that show was on, John? You got
No
a couple of phone
comment.
calls.
No comment. As I said, a big bird talked to me after the show, and I will have no further comment. It's just I will speak to the science fiction scenario I had in my novel, and that's all I.
Well, talk about
the mission was astonishingly successful in terms of demonstrating technology, and we did get very good coverage, photographic coverage of the moon.
Well, now here's why I even mention any of that. If Swan, Ingalls Swan, and others were being direct and truthful, that there are unfriendly individuals up there, what might that portend? And that's one of the things I wanted to initiate this conversation about, guys.
Well, that would be a big problem. That would be a big problem.
Dr. Brandenberg, let me ask you this question, because you and I have talked about this before, and you've gone over lots of radio stations saying this. So when you were working, you always mentioned that going around the water cooler, you said you had talked with other scientists and say, what are we going to do with these nasty grays? You know, what are we going to do with these guys? So I never able to get you to elaborate on it. I just never asked that question. Not that you wouldn't, but I've never got that question out to you. So now I want to get that question out to you. What do you mean by nasty grays? Are they nasty? I mean, personally, I think if you take somebody in the middle of the night, kidnap them, assault them without their permission, that's kidnapping and assault. But what do you think?
Oh, yeah. I can say that I worked in Washington, D.C. On space and defense and all of the things associated with that for like 15 years. And I then wrote a science fiction novel, Morning Star Pass, The Collapse of the UFO Cover-Up, which has two sequels. And I guess that's the best way I could talk about, well, let's just say that the book was inspired by things I'd heard.
Well, then tell us about the book that you were inspired by, about the nasty grays, which is part of what you were talking about.
Well, in the science fiction scenario that I posited, the universe is a big, complicated place, and it has some species that are actually quite friendly to the human race. In fact, we're the result of shore leave by a few of those species, so they're very much like us. And then there's some others that don't like us at all and view us as a pebble in their shoe, so to speak. And unfortunately, in the novel, the U.S. government, as it turns out, is in a secret treaty relationship with one of the really bad actors in the cosmos, and because of the work of two news anchors, of course they're gorgeous. One's blonde and one's Asian. They're both beautiful. And anyway, they start getting leaked documents from inside the UFO cover-up, and to everyone's amazement, they bring it down. And when it comes down, by the way, there's an attempted coup d'etat by the secret government that has grown up around this treaty relationship. And there's a secret base in the novel in a place called the San Luis Valley in Colorado, a place called Morning Star. And it's kind of military science fiction because it has to do with a special forces unit called Dark Carnival. And their job is that when the secret government decides it wants to bring down a UFO, it sends out Dark Carnival, and one way or another, they bring down a UFO. And Dark Carnival is a bunch of special forces guys go make a cordon around the site, storm and take over the alien ship, and basically prepare it for transport, and then tell everybody to stay away. You know, don't worry, folks, nothing here to see. You know, that's their job. And so they call them the Carney. So anyway, I'm just giving you just a brief outline of the book. Of course, there's all sorts of, literary spice in it, involving the two women and everything. And when the UFO cover-up finally collapses, they get a big joint House and Senate investigation of the UFO cover-up, and when that starts to happen, the secret treaty is discovered, and there's an attempted coup d'etat by the secret government. There are tanks in the streets. And Don has read the novel and found it delightfully scary. So it'll make a great movie. In fact, you can see a video version of it called Morningstar Pass, The Collapse of the UFO Cover-Up on YouTube, especially the third edition is the most polished version. So I was very pleased to have written that, and it was kind of a worst case scenario for how this could all end. But it was inspired by, let's say, rumors I heard while I was working in DC. And I even, when I was my farewell lunch with some people I've been working with, I said, I've heard a lot of interesting things around the coffee machine, the water cooler around here.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking of writing a science fiction novel and put some of that stuff in there. And they said, sure, John, we always like your reports. You write that novel and we'll read it, but make sure it's science fiction. So I did. So
well, that's a great way to hide truth is in science fiction, and some of the best science fiction. Yeah, science fiction writers, the best. Arthur C. Clarke, all those guys using real knowledge and putting it in there. So I like that.
Yeah. So I was very pleased to write it, and a lot of people really liked it, including some people who I used to work with. They liked it.
Hey, Dr. Brandenberg.
Did that full-bird colonel like it?
The full-bird colonel? Yeah, I think he did.
Go ahead, Chris.
And,
no.
But it was just, it was fun to do, and I got it out of my system. Part of the reason I wrote it was to try and wrap my head around the whole UFO data set that we are aware of. Everything from the MJ-12 documents to Roswell to all sorts of strange reports of military clashes, people with white spots in their brains after encountering a UFO. They got to get better helmets. That's the way you shield against that is you give them a metal helmet instead of a plastic one. It costs more money, but and it's a helmet designed for a different threat environment than
It's
most
the
jet
other
fighter.
physical injuries that I hear about that are more alarming. I mean, that's very alarming. But these things, they're hurting people, and they might be shooting back now.
Oh. Well, that would be nothing. That would not be a new report. But it's very difficult to figure out what's going on. As I complained to Don, I said, at Mars, where I concentrate my research, we have data recorded by government probes and stuff like this. But in ufology, all we have are reports, which we don't know whether to, we don't know how to assign credibility to them. But one of the things that rumor that went around a lot when I was in the early 80s, when I was in Washington, D.C., was the clash at Dulce, where and I talked to Leonard Stringfield, and he told me that he'd heard 4 different versions of it. The only thing that was different between the versions was the body count of the dead. And so he believed it. The reports were the reports were due to a real incident. They were inspired by a real incident. Now, in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, the people who look through radio telescopes hoping for some signal, here something crashes in the field beside their radio telescopes. They don't pay any attention to that. The carney shows up and takes it away in the middle of the night. But their principle of looking at the universe is what's called the principle of mediocrity. It says that the human race and the earth are nothing special. You think the human race must be the most wretched bunch of sentient beings in the cosmos. Some of these wokey characters say things like this. No, apparently we're only C students in the evil department.
I suspect, John, that whenever we do move to the moon, that the aliens that are there are going to be like, well, there goes the neighborhood.
Oh, absolutely. They and one of the nice things about the modern age is the orbital space over the moon is now getting crowded with all sorts of probes by all sorts of different countries. I mean, it used to be just the United States and maybe the Soviet Union, when it was having a good day, could land stuff on the moon. Now everybody is orbiting and taking pictures. And so if you are up on the moon right now and you build stuff on the far side so it can't be seen from Earth easily, then you've got to start getting homesick, I think. If certainly they know what the human race is like, especially when we get upset. And
well, let me address SETI for a minute.
Sure.
SETI was mentioned, and it's I think it's a grand effort, but we have been listening to the universe, looking for that artificial signal since Frank Drake initiated the whole process back about 1958-59. And with the exception of just a couple of times, we've never found that artificial signal. And one of the prerequisites is that signal must be duplicated. One time is not enough. And in 1977, there was a famous or even infamous signal that was discovered called the wow signal.
The wow
I'm sure
signal, right?
You guys have heard of that. It was never duplicated, however. Now, I have suspected, actually now for a long time, that the reason we have not detected that signal is that the other civilizations out there in the cosmos, and hey, there've got to be a bunch of them. And we're just talking about our galaxy, okay? One of countless billions of galaxies, islands chock filled with stars, maybe as many as 1 trillion stars. And with that many stars, God only knows how many of those stars have planets. Well,
oh, if you look up at the night sky, almost every star has planets, apparently.
Well, my point is, those signals have not been discovered. And I have suspected that those civilizations are aware of a predatory race or races, and that they very well may do what you suspect, John, happened on Mars roughly 200 million years ago. Somebody came by, apparently, saw that Mars had burgeoning life and destroyed it, nuked it. Now, it's very interesting, whether you guys are aware of this or not, that at the height of the remote viewing program that was happening in the 80s, the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, in 1984, tasked a remote viewer, or maybe a couple remote viewers, to do an RV session on Mars to see what they could determine. Now, when that was happening, what was the big Mars story, guys? Do you know?
Got me, John.
The face on Mars.
Oh, yeah, the Sphinx.
Oh,
Right,
yeah, the
right.
face. Yeah.
The face on Mars, the pyramids on Mars, etc. And according to what information was released, those remote viewers, in fact, remotely viewed previously unknown Mars inhabitants. Were you guys aware of that?
No.
I am
was
now.
not.
I was not at the time, but I am now.
Yeah. So anyway, it's something certainly worth discussing. Now, if there are predatory races out there, we have really been dumb, because going back to the 40s and the 50s, this planet must have looked like a bright star in the radio spectrogram, with all the stuff we were shining out into space. TV signals, radio signals, radar. Just think right now, 60 years later, okay, those waves are still traveling out there. And before it's all said and done, it'll be a century, okay, 100 years, and anybody out there will be able to pick those signals up. And if they have bad intentions, guess what? We're shit out
of luck. SOL.
They may come here and tell us to turn down our stereos, Don.
They may do it in another way too. And that why I'd like to ask Don and Dr. Brandenberg this question, because people have asked me this. How would we fare against an alien invasion? We've seen this on television shows where people are starting to actually evaluate how the U.S. military would take on an alien invasion. Don?
I think that it would end up, and I do want to hear what Don says, but I think it would end up being like War of the Worlds TV series, Insurgency. They would beat us down to an insurgency.
Well, that would be the only way that we could. Hey, look, our current technology that we're aware of. Now, God only knows what they have under wraps, all right? God only knows. But we do today have some advanced weaponry. But I've thought about that. And you know what? If they were to come here, they, the great unknown they, with the intent to take this planet, there would only be one sure way to stop them. And that would be to detonate nuclear weapons all over the damn planet and make it uninhabitable for anybody. Of course, we'd take it in the neck if they did that. But what else would you do? Okay, it's kind of like when, Genghis Khan was taking over cities. Anybody that resisted them, what did they do? They went in, they totally leveled the city, and they killed every inhabitant they could kill, they could find. So, in lieu of that, I would be not opposed to mass suicide. I don't know about you guys, but
Well, there's in my science fiction novel, I call that the Masada strategy. And some people consider that unacceptable, so they won't consider it. But I want to just give you a historical analogy. Spain had the first empire on which the sun never set. They conquered Mexico, the Aztecs. Took them about a year and a half, but they did it. They then sailed across the Pacific, conquered the Philippines, which was just a bunch of Stone Age tribes. It was pretty easy to do. Then they heard about this very rich country to the north called Japan. And the Spanish, of course, loaded up their ships with conquistadors, many of whom were veterans of Mexico and, of course, of the Philippines campaign.
Excuse me a second, John. Hey, Amanda, how you doing, girl? Long time. Go ahead, John.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, the Spanish arrived off of the coast of Japan, and they were unloading their boats because they wanted to claim the islands for the King of Spain and the Pope and everything like this. But waiting for them on the beach was the samurai, flashing their swords at them in the sun. And the Spanish watched the samurai infantry there, and then there was cavalry, and then there was finally guys with muskets. And they realized, this is too tough a nut to crack. And of course, the samurai had already faced off against Genghis Khan, or his ancestors, the Mongols, and defeated them. And they had help from 2 hurricanes, but that they held the Mongols on the beach. So people ask me, well, if they're hostile aliens out there, why don't they just attack the Earth and take it over or destroy it? And I said, well, North Korea and us are not on really good terms, but we don't attack them because there's too many other balls of, there's too many other things going on. There are other powers that might intervene. We could end up with a war with China if we invade North Korea to destroy it, etc. So the Spanish were at war with the English at the time. They just lost the Spanish Armada. So they basically did not have enough power that they could project to Japan. There were 3 problems.
And that was a long supply line, John.
Absolutely. The Japanese were too far away, they were too advanced, and they were too ferocious for the Spanish to take. So Japan remained a sovereign country. By the time of 1900, there were only two countries on earth that weren't European that were fully sovereign. One was Ethiopia and one was Japan. The Japanese quickly copied the technology of the Westerners and had their own good navy, as we found out on Pearl Harbor, etc. So I'm just saying that just because the battle is not always to the swift or the victory to the strong, I mean, the race is not always to the swift or the battle to the strong. There are a lot of other issues involved, and there are other races out there that like us that may intervene if there's a big attack on Earth. We have nuclear weapons. The best the aliens could hope for is to inherit the Earth as a frozen radioactive wasteland. Now, that doesn't sound like a very good military strategy. But
what about biological? Let's just say supposedly we got some of these bodies and we know how they work and we can make a virus. I mean, we've already know how to make a virus.
We obviously do.
So, I mean,
very important, Chris. Yeah, there are many. I was telling Don the other day about this. I saw a video taken in the woods by one of these cameras in a tree, and it showed a grizzly bear waking up from hibernation and finding a frozen elk carcass out in the woods. But unfortunately, he found it at the same time a wolverine did. And the wolverine put up such a fight, and the grizzly bear could not get him close enough to squash him. And finally, the grizzly bear gave up and just tore off a leg off the carcass and ran off with it, leaving. So if we are viewed, I think, by the rest of the surrounding races as kind of wolverines, and we're not worth the trouble.
You know, a few years ago, there was a science fiction movie that came out. I've watched it a couple of times and enjoyed it. It's certainly no documentary, but the title of the movie is The Fifth Wave. Mm-hmm. Have you guys seen that?
I have. Yeah.
No.
Now, that was a very interesting take on the idea of an alien invasion on planet Earth. Okay, first wave involved creating earthquakes, breaking down dams, etc. And it went on from there. The next was a virus, an avian type flu. People were catching it and dying by the gross, and on and on. The fifth wave were the extraterrestrials taking over human bodies, basically passing themselves off as humans and going after the final remnants of the human race as human beings. So,
they actually had that scenario was actually in H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds.
Yep.
That the Martians would train human beings, would recruit human mercenaries. And
it's one thing that they leave out of the films and even the show.
Oh, well, by the way, my novel, The Collapse of the UFO Cover-Up, and its two sequels involves then a war with the Greys. And we managed to hold them at bay. They don't stage a big invasion. They don't have enough people, as it turns out. They weren't, let me put it this way. If you read Sun Tzu, The Art of War, he says the best way to win is without any fighting whatsoever. So by making people fight, you're automatically putting them in a bad, a non-optimal situation. In my novel, they find the alien bases on the Earth. They squelch them one by one. They finally invade the moon. Finally, we have 200 divisions on the moon of the U.S. and its allies, which is the whole human race. And they close in on the far side bases on the ground. They turn it into a ground war. And it turns out the aliens, especially because we've captured a lot of their technology, don't have enough. For one thing, they're not suited for that kind of warfare. For one thing, they're a lot shorter than we are. And anyway, without giving away everything, this goes into a complete hammer and tongs war, but there's no great invasion of the Earth because simply the aliens just didn't bring enough people to do anything like that. They didn't. You'd need a much bigger fleet. You'd need, and it would generate into a nuclear war. They don't want that. They want to capture the Earth intact. So they're hamstrung by a lot of consideration. But of course,
here's my fear. Here's my current fear. All right, and it has nothing to do with purported extraterrestrials. It does have everything to do with a woke U.S. military. We have gone woke in the military.
Well,
when we're more concerned. No, wait a minute. When we're more concerned about how our military personnel refer to mom and dad, which is distinctly showing two genders instead of being all inclusive, I know we're bound to get our asses kicked big time. Because I don't think North Korea or China or even Russia is concerned about that horse shit. What they are concerned about is winning a war. And right now, guys, we're not.
If there's anything about a military confrontation, it forces you to deal with reality. And I have that. I will just, without giving a plot spoiler away, by the end of the first novel, after the attempted coup d'etat by the government, several military officers are put in front of firing squads for collaborating with the aliens. And so it's, and some people say, oh, this is all too grim. This is all too unpleasant. I'm sorry. We have to discuss unpleasant things in order to avoid unpleasant situations. That's the real goal.
You think that's unpleasant? Wait until you see hundreds of the enemy trying to get through your defenses so they can come in. Sorry to be graphic, gang.
Sure.
To shove a bayonet up your ass. Okay.
Dangerous military nerds, where this place is well named, and we can have these discussions here.
Yep. YouTube might not like it, but KGRA likes it.
Hey, I'd like to say just one thing, and
I'm a dangerous military nerd, just like the rest of you. I've always worked closely with the Pentagon. When I found out there was strong evidence of a nuclear holocaust on Mars, I didn't report it to NASA. I reported it to the Pentagon.
Amen.
And they told me after 6 weeks, publish.
Yeah, and I think that's good that the truth got out about that. Look,
they wanted to come out.
I think all of us realize that war is not a pleasant thing. It's brutal, it's hostile, and you need boots on the ground people who know how to fight, who can take the fight to the enemy. And I agree with Don. Our military is becoming so woke. We think that we're going to win on technology alone. That's not going to happen, folks. You need, and it's a sad thing, but it's a necessary thing. You need people who are going to put on a uniform and say, I'm going to go out and destroy the enemy. That's what a military is all about. It's not about being woke or a gender issue. It's about
when your ammunition is depleted or your rifle jams, I want the guy beside me that's going to pick up an E-tool and smash somebody's head in.
Machete. Always have a machete handy.
It's one of my favorite moments in Saving Private Ryan that Dale was directly involved with the fight with the knife and helmet.
Yeah.
Right.
Guns weren't working anymore. Let's kill each other like cavemen.
Let's just kill each other. Yeah.
But
and
that's what war is all about.
It's always been about that. Ever since the Trojan, read the accounts of the Trojan War. And they had people coming back from the Trojan War who were PTSD'd, obviously, the 1,000-yard stare.
Well, that's the
that occurs
that's the music to let us know that we're going on our first break, and our only break.
I hope we get back.
Yeah, those videos, the audio.
If the breaks go our way,
But go ahead, Chanel, take us away. Hi guys, this is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Behind every folded flag is a family. When American lives are lost in defense of our freedom, TAPS is there to help the friends and families of those who have served and died. TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for survivors. We provide help, hope, and healing every day. Visit us online at TAPS.org or call 1-800-959-TAPS.
Are you looking to go on a faraway journey that is magical and mysterious, reaping on mystical legends? If so, then Mysterious Adventure Tours is perfect for you. Imagine a voyage to explore ancient mysteries of Ireland, haunted majesties of Scotland, or their chilling Birth of the Vampires in Romania. These small, esoteric getaways are limited and do fill fast. So, go to MysteriousAdventureTours.com and book your trip soon.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Oh, wow, we survived. Welcome back from the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the middle of the film.
Here we are.
Before we move ahead, I do want to read some comments that we starred. Let's see, Monkey Jeebus. UFO shot down a helicopter in Italy.
When did that happen?
I don't know, but that's
a few years back. Lou Elizondo went to investigate that.
So there's that. Jeebus, I vaguely heard about somebody shooting down a UFO, or shooting at a UFO. I've actually heard of that too. Iranian pilot shot at, and wasn't he shot down, Don? Or was it Egyptian?
No. It happened before the Shah fell. This was circa 1976.
Because they have a film about it, Iranian film.
A UFO was over Tehran, all right? And they sent up a couple of, I believe they were F-4s.
Yeah.
To investigate it. and one of the pilots tried to lock on the craft, the UFO, with his radar, and the jets lost all their electronics. The UFO shut them down, and they dropped away. And as they got their noses pointed in another direction, their electronics came back on. So somebody sent them a message: go home.
And that's a fly-by-wire jet, as recall. That was an F4, wasn't it? A Phantom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fly-by-wire, and they shut it down. Scary shit.
There was a jet that was shot down near Utica, New York, back in the late 50s. Very few people know about this, but
I don't know this.
2 jets went up in the 50s, and they were on a training exercise, and they got moved to find out what this unidentified object was, and they spotted it. And as they were maneuvering for position, they tried to lock on it. This thing fired a beam at one of the jets, heated the cockpit so bad that they had to eject. The jet actually went into the village.
Was this an F-86 or something?
It could have been. It was, but it actually, the jet crashed into a village, killed some people in the village.
Oh, man.
And the pilot had to eject because the cockpit, all of a sudden, the heat was so tremendous in there that it was just about melting everything down.
Are you guys familiar with the Fort Itapu, Peru UFO encounter in the 50s?
We lost John. No, I am not aware of it.
Well, this was where a UFO flew in over this military installation, unknown why, but fired beams from the UFO to the military installation, intense heat, furnace-like heat, and just it killed people. People were maimed, injured. Very, very famous out of the 50s. But you see, these are the kind of things that we know happened. They were reported on extensively at the time. And then you get people like Luis Elizondo today going after some of the, what about these historical incidents that are well documented that definitely show an outside force? They totally have ignored them. Just something to think about.
Yeah. Let's move on. Well, this is a Brandenberg question. I'll save that one for later. But here we got this one. We got a back. Hold on, dude. I'm in the starred ones right now. Let's play his video. But actually, a very special one because technically this is a backdoor video.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
And he's still crazy.
He's still crazy. UFO John says, hello, friendly big PP commandos. PP commandos? I don't know what that means. I don't. Oh, man. UFO John says, thanks to KGRIBDB. There you go. Amen to that. And then UF John says, I have a question. First of all, don't yell at us, John. You are allowed to turn off your all caps. It always looks like somebody's yelling at you and they're doing it in all caps. I have a question. Do you think the UFOs work on manipulation of magnetism, electrogravitic, magnetic, kinetic force field, advanced propulsion, and levitation, like electromagnets? You threw in you threw in a lot of fucking words in there, John. That's all I got to say. Is like, God damn, man, I better get a dictionary. What does that mean? I've always believed that they work in something akin to what do they call it? Warp bubble. That they carry this thing with them everywhere they go, and so they slip through things. It's like they're almost like in another dimension. Technically, they're in a bubble, and our seeing them that's why I do, because it was brought up earlier that UAP thing, even though you and I both know that was created by fuckheads that got tired of the word or the acronym UFO. And so we're going to create our own. We're going to call it UAPs. But technically, the way I see it is UAPs are UAP phenomena until they're known to be solid. And once they're solid, don't call them a UAP. They are a UFO. You know, stop with that Peter Pan bullshit with the fucking UAPs when you don't need to use it. But warp bubble, that's how I think they travel. Brandenberg, an actual oh, he's back. Martin, dude, seriously, man, come on, buddy.
Sorry. Hey, I realized my Mars background was slowing down my signal. So
here is the question for you right there. How do you think these things are traveling? I said warp bubble. What do you think?
Oh, well, something of that, when you're talking warp drive, you're talking a region of disrupted space-time.
Yeah, it's disrupting all time and space around them. That we see them is almost weird because they're technically not really there. And it's like a drop of water on Teflon.
No. You got to realize, you guys, and I'm sure some of you have realized it, when you're dealing in a situation of military confrontation, you can't trust anything you see. What you see and what is actually happening can be two different things. And I mean, if they're not really there, why do they crash? You know, if these guys are so smart, why do they crash? You know what happened at Roswell? It wasn't just one crash. For one thing, you guys know what was at Roswell at the time. All of our nuclear weapons, all 5 nuclear weapons were stored at Roswell. That was all the nuclear weapons on Earth. Of course, the UFO aliens are poking around there. They're trying to make a military assessment.
And they were there during a very heavy storm.
Well, actually, the buildup, according to Corso, there was a lot of UFO activity in New Mexico, and the government responded by beefing up.
Yep.
Now, one of the things that would have been beefed up is the stationing of night fighters guided by radar. They would have flown out of Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque. And the standard night fighter of that era was actually the P-61 Black Widow, veteran of World War II. And it was a very good airplane.
It's basically 2 P-51 engines.
Well, it was actually, I think they used Thunderbolt style engines.
Okay,
yeah, they were. You're thinking of.
All I know is they were very powerful and very fast.
Oh yeah, well, this had 4 20-millimeter cannons on the bottom of its fuselage and 4 50 calibers on the rooftop, the turret, streamlined turret. Now they had those, and I'm absolutely certain they had those in the air. And these guys would have been World War II veterans. Flying around in a thunderstorm wouldn't have intimidated them at all. Now, here you've got these spaceships flying around, trying to take measurements. 2 of them crash in one night. As the heroine in my novel says, the agent, she says, 1 crash looks like a tragedy, but 2 crashes begins to look like incompetence on the part of the aliens.
And it does. Yeah, it's like it's that old principle, don't attribute to something evil that could be attributed to something stupid.
They could have run into each other in the middle of a lightning
storm.
They could have been bushwhacked.
Galactic DUI. I like that, galactic DUI. Das Wolfen has another question. I got to get through these questions. So John says, Das Wolfen says, while Dr. Brandenberg is at Mars, could you ask him, and I'm going to correct you here, John, it's the X-23 space modulator, not the Q-37. He says, where is the...
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Tell Das Wolfen that thank you for, I didn't catch that, but thank him for correcting his error or the error of somebody else.
Yeah. So,
well,
John,
this is all science fiction. This is all science fiction scenarios, but that is our guide right now. That is one of our guides.
Yeah. Now, for earlier, when you were like,
one reason I write science fiction.
When you weren't answering the question and referring to your science fiction, John Ostains wrote this. Is there an MIB off screen pointing a ray gun at the good doctor? Was there?
Here, I'll show you who was pointing a gun at me off camera here. If I could.
Is it your wife or one of the dogs?
It's one of my ex-wives.
What are your ex-wives? Bush.
No, here, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can pull this up.
Okay.
Here. Okay. Here. Settings. It says okay. Let's see. Stand. How do I add a picture? Well,
it's not rocket science.
Well, then I don't know anything about it. I'm a specialist.
What you're doing.
Hello.
I don't know. I don't know, guys.
Oh shit!
Oh, we lost him again. We lost everybody, Jerry.
Yeah, Don's got to take a call and
get the ones with sodium in it. What the hell? I'm not eating them all the time.
Let me mute him. Oh my god. Bush McFadden says one of my favorite episodes of Stargate SG-1 was the one with the subterranean dwellers and the surface dwellers. Yeah, it was a really good episode. And yes, that's right. Odo was in it. Very good show. Oh, there, Don's back. There we go. We were actually eavesdropping on your phone call there, so I muted you because I didn't know what you'd be talking about. I was like, oh, that's nobody's business. Here you could let's see. Here you could ask him about the Black Knight. Yes, I actually uploaded that. When John gets back, I'm actually going to throw that bitch up on screen and go, what the fuck is this?
We lose John again?
Yeah, there he is. He's back. All right, I was asked to
You're using all your resources, John, when you're trying to flash other shit up there. You can't do that.
I know.
All right, John.
Okay.
This is a very special question to you. Is brought up by somebody in the chat, and it's also by me, and I uploaded the image right here. What the fuck is that? What is it?
Looks like a Framus of some sort. Either that or an interocitator.
They're like, NASA's like, don't worry about it.
That's the Black Knight, John. The Black Knight.
I don't know. Yeah, it's unidentified. It's an unidentified space object.
When we are able to go into space and we can, go into any orbit we want to not know what that fucking is inexcusable. That means NASA's scared of it.
Oh, well, NASA's the wrong people. Ask the people at the Space Command, and they'll just say no comment.
They'll go, we're not interested in that.
They'll just say we're not interested in that.
That's their basic book answer for everything.
Well,
the
you got to remember
Tic Tac videos. Air Force, Space Force, not interested in that. That's not why we're here. Whatever, dude.
Dr. Brandenberg.
Yes.
Do you believe there's been other highly advanced civilizations on our Earth here? Do you think we had civilizations more advanced than us right here on Earth? Because we're 4.5 billion years old. It's just hard to believe that we're just the only ones around.
If you read the Bhagavad Gita, which was then it describes what sounds like an extraterrestrial group coming to Earth, forming a colony, which then split, and they promptly had a nuclear exchange between them. So it may have been extraterrestrial. Unfortunately, the situation being what it is, if they uncovered a piece of advanced technology buried at some deep level in the earth that obviously predated the 6,000-year supposed horizon on civilization on Earth, Would they talk about it? I don't think so. No, it'd be immediately classified. So they're not dealing from a complete deck here. I mean, in more ways than one. They're trying to keep a big secret from the public. But the other clue is I put out in this novel I wrote. Can anybody put up the cover of Morningstar Pass, the collapse of the UFO cover-up?
Let me look it up real quick. Morning.
Yeah, just find it on the net. But the thing is that, and the advantage of having two women heroines is they talk about everything. The guys are, they're special forces guys. They don't talk about stuff very much. And but the thing is that
there you go.
The American public doesn't want to know the truth. They don't want to. They're afraid of the truth and they don't want to know it. That's why they don't demand answers like they normally would. And I remember Flight 800. Here's this airliner with 250 people on it, blows up in the air after taking off from JFK. This was back in the 90s, I believe. And I like coffee. Ever since graduate school, I like coffee, So I'm standing around the coffee machine. It's break time. Everybody's getting some coffee. And I talked about the Flight 800 explosion where there was a UFO reported in the sky, crossing the sky that hit the airliner, and the FBI would not let anybody who saw that testify at the National Transportation Safety hearings on the tragedy. Here's this airliner with a whole bunch of people on it, takes off from JFK, blows up. And I said, there was a strange object seen in the sky near the airliner, which is, qualifies as an unidentified flying object. And then I turned to my buddies who were standing here. There were three of them that were all getting their coffee. And they said, but I hesitate to call it a UFO. And these guys, I could tell, recoiled when I said the word UFO in connection with this tragedy, Flight 800. And you check it out. They never did come up with they never did offer the public.
Well, for quite a while, it was suspected it was a surface-to-air missile.
Yeah, but they did pick up all the pieces of the wreckage and reassemble the plane. All they could find out was what looked like burn marks, like a lightning strike along the airline cables from the one wing. There was no sign of an explosion or shrapnel. I mean,
well,
at least that's what the report said. That's what the report
said. Shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles, John. You have several settings on that. You can have a kinetic kill, and then you can have a shrapnel kill.
You can obviously do that. It was like a 747. What kind of airliner was it? Chris, do you know?
I do not know. I've always had some interesting takes on the Flight 800. I haven't, be honest with you, I haven't dealt into that for some time. But I will tell you, I think that unidentified flying objects have been involved in airline crashes, have been involved in planes. I mean, from back when the P-51 Mustang, we sent Mantell up, and Mantell was shot
Mantell.
But
yep,
and stuff. So you got Mantell shot down. You got all these other things.
Well, that's contentious today, Chris. The Mantell thing. I know Kevin Randall did some extensive research on that. the Mantell being shot down thing has gone around for a long time, but they were flying P-51s, Mustangs. Okay, supposedly his oxygen supply in the aircraft was not working. He went up to about 20,000 feet, suffered asphyxia, and passed out, and then the plane came down. Now that's Randall's take on it.
He was a veteran pilot, though. He was flight qualified on a P-51. He would, well, it seems unlikely to me he would make a mistake like that as an experienced pilot. I just, that's my take on it. I just think
it's not just Mantell, though. I mean, we've seen so many other types of things that, let's just get away from the pilots. Just talk about people on the ground. People on the ground have gotten ionized radiation burns by these objects. People have gotten, other kinds of physical injuries by these objects. These things, for whether it's intentional or unintentional or not, and Burroughs and Pendleton both have said to me that they wish they didn't get that close to these things, because Don, wasn't it Burroughs that got physically ill from it?
Oh yeah, and the goddamn Pentagon classified his military records.
Right.
He had to go to John McCain's office to get those military records released as medical records for treatment. Okay, they really screwed that guy around.
Now, Dr. Nolan did tell me one thing, and this was, and I don't know if he did it just because to answer my question because I pressured him, or because he just wanted to put this out there. He did say that a person with a laser was screwing around with an unidentified craft, pointing it at the craft. And the craft actually shot a beam, hit him in the back of the neck, and he was all burned. Now that came from Dr. Nolan just the other night.
No kidding.
So, yeah. So when people say that these things are friendly and must be here to help us, one, I haven't seen one alien come down and solve our water problem, our pollution problem, our military problem. They ain't done jack shit as far as I'm concerned.
No, they haven't.
Well, and the other thing is, if you take somebody at 2:00 in the morning and you start sticking probes in them, kidnap them, I don't know about how they do things on their planet, but here we put them in Attica. If you did that to somebody and you got caught, you go to prison.
You know what Stephen Greer told me one time?
What did he say?
Stephen Greer.
Inquiring minds want to know.
The first time I ever encountered him, this was back in about 89 or 90, just when he was coming out to be a UFO star. Okay. He called us up at UFO Magazine and wanted to have lunch with us. So Vicky and I said, sure. So we met him at a restaurant downtown, and we're sitting in there talking, and he starts this shtick with me about how the aliens are beneficent. They're here for our own good. And just by chance at that point, I had written an article for the magazine about all the times that people had been injured or worse encountering UFOs. And I swear to God, he looked at me straight in the eyes. He said, well, I'm an emergency room doctor, a physician. And I got to tell you, sometimes we have patients come in where I've got to do something that hurts them to help them. And he was trying to tell me that the aliens were hurting us to help us. Okay? What a crock of horse shit. So,
Vincent DiPietro, one of the earlier investigators of the Mars Face, and I actually had lunch with Jim Greer and in Maryland, and I asked him. I said, what about the abductions and the cattle mutilations? And that doesn't seem very positive. And he says, "Oh, this is a false flag operation by the military to make us fear the aliens when we should really be embracing them." And I remember DePietro, who's a tough Italian, grew up in Baltimore. He was an electrical engineer and mechanical engineer. He shoots me this look, and I shot him a look back like, "Oh no, this guy has really drunk the Kool-Aid here." And we decided there was no point in talking to him any further because he was out of touch with reality.
Let me say one word and see if it fits. Collaborator.
Well, yeah, Pollyanna, I would say, it just, yeah, I mean, people who look at the same facts we do, and they say, "Oh, they're here to help us," and then you say, "Well, what about this? What about that?" And they say, "Oh, that's just disinformation."
As far as the cattle mutilations go, gentlemen, as far as I'm concerned, if it's aliens that are doing it, they're just a bunch of dumb bastards. Because if you think an asshole, a cow's asshole and a cow's eye is delicacy, and you leave the ribeyes and the filet mignons behind, you can't be that brilliant. All I could say is I would tell these guys, "Listen, you're going to take a cow, you save the ribeyes for me, pal. You go ahead and take whatever you want, but you want to."
I'll tell you, Chris,
Don?
I agree with you, but I think it goes far beyond that.
Probably.
Whoever is doing that, and I don't for a second think it's the military. Okay, the military, my God, they've got gazillions and gazillions of acres and miles. If they wanted to test cattle, they could put a gazillion cattle out there and do whatever they want. Somebody is checking our environmental toxins. I think that's what it is.
With cows' assholes?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I give an alternative interpretation. In Kosovo, remember where the Serbs and the Albanians were fighting over this one little province in the Balkans. There was an enormous number of abductions and rapes and also cattle mutilations. And it was being done by human beings. Both sides were mutilating each other's cattle and leaving notes saying, "You're next." It was terrorization on the part of the, finally things went, full tilt, and they were having a war, which we got involved in. And so it's in the history of the dark aspects of history of the human race, mutilating cattle and abducting people and raping them in the middle of the night, that is standard procedure for trying to intimidate people. I'm sorry. But it also indicates, as I have in my novel, it just makes the ranchers mad. It doesn't scare them. I mean, it does scare them a little bit, but they just start carrying rifles with silver bullets in them, just because they figure it's a werewolf doing an alien werewolf doing this, and they're going to take care of it with a silver bullet. And finally, in my novel, one of the turning points is they do have some military people helping the ranchers, and they have a shoulder-fired Sam, and they're sleeping out on the range one night, and they wake up, and there's an alien ship trying to take a cow for mutilation. So this guy picks up his Sam, arms it, and draws a bead on it. He gets tone, and he thinks, "I'm going to start an interstellar war right here, right now." He pulls the trigger, and he nails it. It can't it's burdened down by the cow. It can't rise fast enough to get away from the missile, and he nails it. And when the UFO cover-up people hear about this, one of them says the UFO cover-up now has hours to live because on private ranching land, and the sheriff and his posse are there within a half hour with 200 guys with heavily armed guarding this crashed saucer. In fact, one of the cowboys rides up to the people who did this, and he gets off his horse. He looks at the dead bodies of the aliens, the crashed vehicle, the half mutilated cow, and a human in a black uniform. And he turns to the guy, Chuck, who owns the land, and he says, "Well, Chuck, looks like you had it figured right all along." Then, of course, the guard force from the local alien, joint alien human base arrives and tries to take back the saucer. And I won't tell you what happens next, because this is a show for women and children.
I'd like to hear what happened next.
Oh God! Well,
before we get to it, though, I want to get to we didn't get to all the questions, but I do want to say hello to everybody in the chat, everybody that watches the show, because we appreciate you guys coming to watch and interacting and everything. First of all, to Monkey Chivas, thank you, come again. Penny, Dork Knight's mom, Christian Delorme, Das Wolfen, would you like to touch my monkey, Das Wolfen? Good. Bill Barkley, let's see, Bush McFadden. Bush McFadden has a quote that I'm going to play at the end of the show, just for him and for you, your amusement. Then, of course, we have Imdavdai Y. Naden. Wow. That is a $20 name. The Dork Knight, that's Penny's son. Joe's Atmosphere, Apollome's Minion, UFO John, Danny Fan 1, which is Amanda on Facebook. By the way, Amanda, I sent you a friend request on Facebook. Grandmaster UV, and let's see, Genghis Khan or Genghis Khan, Master Players Radio and Television Plus Gaming. That's a long one. That's a $40 name right there. Look at that. That's $40. And of course, the wonderful Keely Chow is here. So thanks, guys, for dropping in and taking part in the conversation. Deeply appreciate it. Except for you, Monkey. Jesus Christ. Yes, there'll be an after show. I'm sorry. I got so excited about our morning show. I forgot to send invites out for you guys to join us after the show.
I got Jerry, real quick. I'd just like to say a big shout out to Amanda and Chanel. What amazing producers they are. The shows like Chanel. This would never be able to take place without Chanel and Amanda, who does our show. I am so grateful for the both of them.
Chanel won't come on camera. She's shy. No. Gap After Dark, what are you doing? And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, half the reason why I would say 75% of the reason why I do the shows in the mornings is because of the amazing following we have and the people in the chat and their interactions. Somebody said huzzah. Genghis Khan, yes. Thanks for sharing, Gary. You bet, man. Thank you guys for being here. Deeply appreciate it. But I have some videos I'm going to be adding for the end of the show just for Brandenberg. And it's going to be for his
amusement. I got one last comment.
Go for it, man.
It's a comment by the blonde on the cover of the novel. She finds out she's a UFO abductee. And she says, in an interview, she says, I've met these people from outer space. The good news is that they're a lot like us. And the bad news is they're a lot like us.
Yes. I like the show Resident Alien. It's one of my favorite shows on
yeah, yeah.
And I like it when he meets with the Greys and he's talking about them later. He's describing the Greys. He says, Greys are dicks. I fucking cracked up. I'm like, what a great show. And you know who voiced the Grey? Fucking I just forgot it. Takei. George Takei from Star Trek. Oh
George
my. Oh my. That's who voices the gray alien that he meets. It's funny as hell. If you're not watching that show, you should be. That is one of the best alien invasion shows on TV. And it's so silly and fun and likable and endearing. because you actually care about the characters, and that's good writing that brings that about. But I'm not going to get into one of my tirades about writing. But I appreciate it. Don, lead us into the next question, my friend, or direction we need to go. Also, this show is not going to be complete until you say sons of bitches or son of a bitch. You're breaking me, man.
Come on, Don. We know you want to say it.
We need a rant. We need a rant.
Rays are sons of bitches. Little bastards.
Oh, and this guy right here, Supernatural fan right there, my friend. Amanda. If you don't already know,
let me tell you.
Fan. He got me back to watching it, as well as I started watching the spinoff series.
Oh, let me tell you. And they broke my heart. They broke my heart when they came out with an idea for the Wayward Sisters, and that never made the jump to the TV screen. You guys remember that episode?
No.
The Wayward Sisters, Sheriff Jody and Donna, and the other girls on the show, they were going to have a spinoff series.
Oh,
because when the Winchester show was winding down, and the bottom line was, I thought for sure, oh man, this is going to be great, and they didn't do it, and I was heartbroken. So them sons of bitches.
Hey, there we go, Don. Now the show's complete.
But basically, I guess because I'm still curious. Like
Amanda and I had that in common, boy. Both huge Supernatural fans. Oh my God.
I still believe that we will have to go to an insurgency. I don't think that we could fight them conventionally. We talked about this too before, John. Don, and I talked about how the only nuclear weapon we could do is one that would be detonated manually.
Oh yeah,
because if it
you
involved
can
any
make them
technology,
so you can light them with a fuse. You know,
it's got to be done manually.
Human ingenuity is amazing.
Around 69, 70 in Vietnam, and I found this out later. Okay, there was genuine fear that the Chinese communists were going to send, air quotes now, guys, volunteers.
Volunteers.
Okay. And the DOD got together with Special Operations Command and said, well, boy, if they do that, how can we stop them? They were going to parachute Special Forces troopers carrying backpack nukes into Vietnam and set them off at likely passes if the Chinese came. Now think about that. Oh my God. That's kind of like when we planned to shoot a nuke at the moon. Do you guys know about that?
Oh, I know.
That would have not been good, but that was the plan because they saw what happened in Korea. Okay, when the Chinese came into Korea, so they were going to stop them in their tracks. So yeah, they can do it. One man or two men can trek in with a backpack nuke, set the thing up, and all they got to do is wait for the countdown.
I hear somebody in a kitten.
Oh, I want you to meet my new ufologist.
Oh,
this is my assistant.
Hi. Uh-oh, she's a ginger.
Oh yeah, red hair, blue eyes. This is my granddaughter, and she is now the new ufologist in the.
Congratulations, Chris.
Congratulations, buddy.
And may she have a wonderful future.
Well, I got to tell you something, Doctor. I certainly hope she does. You know, it's people like you who bring out the truth that will give these young people a future. So kudos to you. Kudos to you, Don. Kudos to you, Jerry, because if the truth doesn't get out, if people like you don't put the truth out and tell it the way it is, young people like this won't know what it is.
And I think more importantly than anything, Chris, is to put the truth out and be a dick while doing it.
Sometimes that's necessary.
Sometimes you got to be a dick.
Guys, we're all just doing our jobs here.
And Jerry is just a guy that leads us all into dictum.
It is. It's true. If there was a King Dick, I would be at least the court jester. We have another breach of the back door. Here you go. Here's your video.
Open your back door, baby. Loosen your hinges, I'll show you my key.
I fucking love that song. It's a good song. And here we go. This is for John Brandenberg and Bush McFadden, because he said it in the thing. So I'm going to do it one by one. And I'm going to have to pause every few seconds because we don't want to get copyright from Saturday Night Live.
But what if it were made of barbecue spare ribs? Would you eat it?
Would you eat it? And then the next question would be...
It's not rocket science. Just say yes and we'll move on.
Oh, doctor, that was bad.
He was doing Harry Carey from Chicago. And my favorite part is Harry Carey was dead in real life, and he was doing that character, and it just slayed me because I watched Harry Carey for years growing up, and he nailed the confusion. But my favorite Harry Carey moment was when Bill Murray would come on and co-announce with him because they were friends. He was friends with the family, and he's like, how's your father? And he goes, oh, well, Harry, he's dead. And he goes, oh my God, I didn't know that. When did it happen? He goes, like 10 years ago. It was just messing with Harry Carey, man. Just messing with him. Bill Murray's a dick. I love that. But you were gonna say something, Chris?
No, absolutely not. I was listening to you going on. I was kind of hoping Don would pick up one of his rants, and
we did two classic quotes in this show. We now have the videos for. Somebody, I think it was John, or it might have been you, Chris, that said, well, bye. Remember that?
Yeah.
I know it's over.
Well, bye.
I'm going to start charging for my rants, Chris.
Yeah. I know you should. It's just like, would you like Don Ecker to appear at your college? He will rant and then set an amount. Just go there, just rant. And then, of course, this one goes for...
Wow.
Because somebody said wow earlier. Don said it. Wow. So, having some fun. We're moving into the last about 13 minutes of the show. So, let's get into the wind down. And then, of course, we will be inviting some of the members to join us after the show. I don't know if you can stick around, John, Chris, but you're not doing your show today, right? Because your guest.
Oh, my guest had an emergency, and that's why
you're
not here and stuff.
We're glad you showed up, man. I was really tickled when I saw you called. I'm like,
I was tickled about that too, Chris.
One thing I want to add.
Tickled in the taint? I'm just curious, Don. Was it in the taint?
Why not?
Fuck it.
Don, there's one thing about, we talked about hostile aliens and stuff. One thing you didn't bring up, and I think it's one of the most important things you ever investigated, was the mutilation of a human that you may think it was an extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
Don is probably the only police officer that's ever publicly come out about a mutilation that may not have been done by
humans,
a terrestrial. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I uncovered at least 3, possibly 4 solid cases of human mutilation, very similar to what the cattle have been demonstrated.
I have that in my novel, by the way.
Yeah, it's and boy, I'll tell you what, Chris, this is a little on the aside, but did I take the hate from the UFO field for that? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I had Whitley Strieber and his wife come out of a lecture, saw Vicky and I walking down the hall. This was at a UFO conference. And started screaming and jumping up and down and ranting like wild people. Okay.
You must be doing something right, Don.
Well, I mean, that fixed me as far as Whitley was concerned from that point forward. But these people were
Stockholm.
clueless. They were clueless about number one, how to do a real freaking investigation. Okay. There's a set of protocols that you must follow. And you know this, Chris.
Yeah.
If you want to do an effective criminal type investigation, you got to talk to people. You got to be willing to, even if you have preconceived ideas, you got to be open to change your thinking depending upon where the evidence leads you. And the fact of the matter was, I had what I thought was some damn good evidence to prove that this was from some external, not human source. And hey, it was 3 years of banging my head on a wall. And finally, I just had to say the hell with it, okay? There's nowhere I'm going, especially when I had a guy call me up from Florida who was a DEA agent who had read my initial report, thought I was full of shit, okay?
Right.
Until he started doing a little backtracking on what I had said. And he told me, and of course at the time, I didn't get deterred by this, but he said, you know what? He said, you're treading in some dangerous waters, and I'd be very careful. Because if this did, in fact, turn out to be true, it's something that it's like the overall UFO core secret, okay? This was something that they didn't want the public to be aware of. And you're right. Most people in the public don't want to know. They don't want to know these facts because, quite frankly, it's damn scary. It would be hard to go to bed at night knowing that this bullshit is true.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's half the reason why they have desensitized us to it over the decades, to where now people find out Tic Tacs are real, these UFOs are real, go on about their lives that nothing's going on.
Well, the human race is a bunch of survivors, and part of that survival is psychological ploys that we even do to ourselves. During the Cold War, we all grew up 30 minutes from nuclear annihilation. But we went about our business, Okay.
5 minutes to midnight, man.
Talk about PTSD. An entire generation of school children grew up hiding under their desk.
Yep. I was part of that generation too.
My pop built a fallout shelter in our house, and told me later, he says, he didn't know what he was thinking when they said, but he said the government told us to do it. So I did it. And, but we got through it, finding out that the universe, that we're not alone in the universe, that we're not even lonely, in the words of the heroine of my novel. People get used to it, and then the fact that not everybody out there is really nice. But you got to remember, there got to be some nice people out there, or otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation.
We wouldn't be having any conversation.
No.
I'm certain that there were some really nice Spaniards when they went into South America.
I'm sure there were.
Yeah, but it's what the bad ones did that really left the taste in the mouth.
Well, if the Aztecs had just had bronze and gunpowder, they would have been able to stop the Spanish. Cold.
Yep.
Now let me ask you guys a question. I because I wanted to get this out. So if we think that aliens, there's certain species that want to take over this planet, want to get rid of us. What do you think of the hybridization program where they're cloning us and they're just, instead of destroying us, Dr. Brandenberg wants to talk about that. Yeah.
You got to read my novel.
What an easy way to take us over.
Oh, I actually published this in UFO magazine, the MUFON journal. That you hybridize things, so you give the human immune system to these things that are mostly alien in biology, and then then they can live on Earth. So you can colonize Earth with them. That's why you do it.
Think?
Absolutely. Now we're wrapping up here. We're down to the last few minutes here, and there was a request for adding something, and I did this just for Don. And because of the request, here you are.
Somebody's saying,
Son of a bitch! Son of a bitch!
That's fucking awesome. That's how fast I am, guys. If you give me something to look up and to add, I'll do it. I'll do it. It's a good video. And I'm like, yeah, I like that when he said that. When he realizes she screwed him, it's like, son of a bitch. Took his car. Great episode. So we're winding up here. Let's get something in closing. With I guess we got 2 minutes to really go into that, and then we got to start saying bye to everybody. What do you want to end this on with this whole thing in the military dealing with UFOs and aliens, John?
I think they're doing a generally good job so far. That's why we're having this conversation. They managed to keep a lid on it, and they've managed to keep them at bay.
So far,
the bad ones.
I do believe that Space Force, because Russia's had their own Space Force since a long time ago, back in the 90s, early 90s. And we finally got one. Everybody made fun of it because it was under Trump. But the fact is it was about fucking time. We've had one too. We just didn't have a name for it.
No.
It was in 2016, I think it was, or 2017, when they finally said, we got a Space Force. It's really been around for a while. And we gave them Imperial officer uniforms, which look really cool, by the way. The Star Wars uniforms, they're pretty fucking badass. Every time an officer walks into a room with that, they need to play the Imperial March. The da 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 da. John Williams.
We had on the Clementine mission, we had senior staff members who wanted that played whenever they would walk in the room to the control room.
That would have been great, because I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what a great theme. Nobody could write a march like John Williams, man.
Absolutely.
But I do think that we've wrapped the show up pretty good. I want to thank everybody for being here. Chris, thanks for dropping in, man. I'm sorry your show didn't happen, but hey, man, you're in here. I could shut up and just fucking listen to you guys talk all day. And I'm sitting there going, I was quiet for quite a while.
We don't want you to do that.
Well, the funny part is I'm sitting there going, oh, wait, I'm in the show. I'm not watching it.
Son of a bitch.
There we go.
Son of a bitch!
Wow.
So
the whole situation is that can be summarized. Part of the universe has gotten short with us, the little grays, but there are apparently people out there who actually view us with a certain amount of affection, perhaps grudging, and they don't want the grays to take over here. That would.
Well, this document, this paper that I'm currently working on, I'm writing.
Yeah.
Something became very apparent to me. And John, you and I had a chat about this a couple of nights ago.
Yes.
I am convinced there literally are at least two factions within the Pentagon. There is a faction that wants to release more of this information to the public.
Yep.
And the other faction will go to their grave keeping it secret.
Absolutely.
Not till doomsday, they say in my novel. Not till
in the immortal
doomsday.
words of Quint, if the aliens come,
well underdo to you fair Spanish ladies.
There you go. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank Chanel for doing a great job producing the show. I want to thank Martin for being the right side of my brain and handling the chat. And I want to thank Don Ecker for letting me do this with him.
All right, Don.
And I want to thank you, John, for being here. Thank you for being our guest. And Chris, thanks for being here as our guest co-host.
Every time Don says guys. Son of a bitch, I say, yes, Don.
Yep. And to lead us to the outro, I will play this quick clip.
I'm going to say two words to you right now. I want you to listen to them very, very carefully. We find most people can remember them. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, here they are.
Stop it!